Right now, we have been discussing one of the most difficult poems in your syllabus, which is Big Match 1983 by Yasmine Gunarathne. So basically, in this poem, last week actually we discussed the history of this particular incident, and I have explained you in this particular poem we discuss about one of the terrible incidents that actually occurred in our history, where we killed so many innocent people because of the misunderstanding that we had. So we discussed about the title of the poem, and we discussed about the history of the story as well. And today we are going to discuss what happened actually in the situation and how this particular writer wrote about this particular incident in a nutshell, and how she highlighted about the suffocation of this problem as well. Now, I was explaining you the history, if I am not mistaken. Now, even after curfew was enforced, the violence went on for 3 days, right? So this particular violence actually continued for more than 3 days. So it actually created number of troubles and tribunals for people. Innocent Tamils, innocent Sinhalese were brutally killed. And Sri Lankan politicians are the ones who actually did this particular act in order to gain some kind of political advantage from that. That is what we can realize when we go through the story, right? So in order to get some kind of political advantage, that is what they did. Even after curfew was enforced, the violence went on for 3 days, peaking on Wednesday 27th and ebbing on Thursday 28th, the day that Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi sent Indian Foreign Minister P. Narasimha Rao as a special emissary to Colombo. So even they actually went their representatives in order to save these innocent children, innocent people, innocent Tamils, but unfortunately nothing actually happened, right? So this did not actually stop from there. So this is what we can realize when we discuss about the story. So we will move on from there. Right, now you can start writing. I will give you time. So make sure to complete your note then and there. I have told you several times, when you are doing literature, your speed plays a key role, right? Definitely you have to write fast. So definitely it creates a huge impact when it comes to your paper. This entire poem is written based on the communal clash that occurred in Sri Lanka, right? So in this poem, we discuss about the communal clash which occurred in Sri Lanka. Try to understand that. But you will never be able to understand this poem if you don't actually understand the history of this particular incident. So in the previous video and this video, I have explained you the history of the incident. I am pretty sure that you can understand about that, right? So the entire poem is written about this particular incident, and the writer or else the poet actually shows us different perspectives, right? So the problem will be taken into consideration and different perspectives can be clearly identified when it comes to the story. The 7 stanzas of the poem expound about the 7 different situations related to the incident, right? So basically in this poem, we will find 7 stanzas, and these 7 stanzas actually highlight 7 different incidents. There are so many difficult words, but make sure to understand the history of the incident. What actually happened? 13 soldiers were brutally killed where in Jaffna by Prabhakaran, by LTTE, and their dead bodies were brought into Boralla Cemetery, right, for the cremation. At that time period, the government actually wanted to create some kind of emotional situation among the public because they wanted to get the majority votes of the Sinhalese. So they wanted to create some kind of conflict between Sinhala majority and the Tamil minority. They actually wanted to highlight the fact that these soldiers were actually killed by Tamils, not by terrorists, not by LTTE. So their mentality was they wanted to highlight almost all the Tamils can be identified as LTTE. That was the idea that they wanted to impart to the majority of Sinhalese. Unfortunately, most of the Sinhalese, they were actually driven by their emotions, and they started to destroy almost all the properties belong to these Tamil people. And it went to the next level. These politicians hired certain mobs and they asked them to destroy the properties of these Tamils. And Tamils started killing Sinhalese, and Sinhala majority started killing Tamil minority. And as a result of that, a communal clash occurred in Sri Lanka, even the police did not stop that, right? So as a result of that, even today, a set of Tamils are actually living in different types of other countries. They are known to be the diaspora, right? So you may have heard that word. So this is what actually happened, right? So as a result of that, even today we have so many communal clashes between Tamil community and Sinhala community. Even in the Saharans attack, even in the Easter attack, same thing happened. Can you remember, right? Since because Saharan is a Muslim, right? We were under the impression that almost all the Muslims are terrorists. That was the idea actually came to our mind. So we had a negative impact about all the Muslims, but later we realized that all the Muslims cannot be categorized as terrorists, right? So this is the mindset we have to understand, right? So in this poem, the poetess tries to give an idea that as human beings, right, we have to understand there is nothing called majority and minority. At the end of the day, we are living in the same country, right? We have to work hard for the betterment of the country, for the development of the country, for the prosperity of the country, right? It doesn't matter whether you are a Sinhala or Tamil or Muslim or Hindu or Burgher. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters is we have to work together as one unit because we all are Sri Lankans, right? At the end of the day, that is what matters. So this is the major idea highlighted by this particular writer when it comes to this particular poem, right? These are the key things that you have to remember. So hurry up and write down. Please pass me a message. Right, we will move on to the next part. I hope you guys have completed. Right, now we are going to discuss about the stanzas. Let's start about the first stanza, and basically I have numbered them. Then it is very easy for you to understand the stanzas and the ideas behind that. You can refer to the book. Glimpsing the headlines in the newspapers, tourists scuttle for cover, cancel their options. On rooms with views of temple and holy mountain, flashpoint in paradise, racial pot boils over. So this is how the poem starts. This poem is actually written in free verse, right? This poem is actually written in free verse. So the poet actually explains us what actually happened here. Glimpsing the headlines in the newspapers. Now, this particular incident is actually reported in newspapers with bold letters, right? Whatever the terrible incidents that occurred were reported in bold letters, using bold letters. That is what the poetess has highlighted, right? This is how the media has reported the incidents which occurred in our motherland in bold letters, because they wanted to sell a lot of newspapers, right? They wanted to improve their profit. As a result of that, whatever the incidents that occurred during this time period, newspapers actually highlighted those incidents using bold letters with glimpsing headlines in the newspapers, right? These are the these are the these are the things that we can highlight in the first stanza. So when written in the first stanza, when we read the first line itself, we can understand how the poet is criticizing the behavior of media. Instead of providing a solution to the problem, media behaved in a quite irresponsible way. They actually highlighted almost all the terrible incidents which occurred during this time period using bold headlines, right? They actually wanted to sell their newspapers. They never wanted to find a solution, right? Now, we know that how we actually changed the entire government by using social media, right? We know what kind of impact that social media has. Can you remember from Aragalaya what kind of difference that we made, what kind of impact that we made? So here, the poetess is very much critical about the criticizing about the behavior of media, my dear students, right? So she is not happy about that. So she says, right, the media people, they used actually these headlines, right? Glimpsing, right? Glimpsing means bold headlines, because then people will buy these shorts, newspapers, and they will read them and they can earn the profit. So in the first line, we can understand how media actually reacted to the situation, right? Let's go to the second line. Tourists scuttle for cover, cancel their options. Now, Sri Lanka is known to be a beautiful country, which is known to be a very popular tourist destination. Now, a lot of tourists, they came to Sri Lanka during this time period. They don't know what is going to happen. Now, they are searching for cover and they are canceling their options as well. They may have planned to go to down south. They may have planned to go to different other places in Sri Lanka. But now, they don't know what to do. From the second line, we can understand how tourists reacted to this particular situation, right? So from the first line, we can understand how media reacted. From the second line, we can understand how tourists reacted. They are canceling their options, right? They don't want to stay in a room where they can see the view of the temple and holy mountain, right? So here the temple means the temple of truth, or else Dalada Maligava. Here the holy mountain refers to the Adam's Peak. Now most of these tourists, they actually booked rooms where they can see the beautiful view of the temple of truth and the holy mountain. That is what we call Adam's Peak. They wanted to see those places, right? But now they have different plans, right? Now they don't want to see these places. They want to go back to their country because of this communal clash. And finally, the poet says the headlines. What are the headlines that these newspapers used? In the fourth line, we can see headlines. These are the headlines they used. Flashpoint in paradise, right? Flashpoint means everyone actually pays attention. Flashpoint, flash, right? So it is like a flashlight. Flashpoint in paradise. Paradise means Sri Lanka, right? Now, in this particular paradise, in this beautiful land, right, it is highlighted to everyone now like a flashpoint. People pay their attention. People all over the world, they pay their attention to this particular place because of this communal clash. And then what happened? Racial pot boils over. What do you mean by racial pot? Racial pot refers to all the communities, Sinhalese, Tamils, Muslims, they are living together, right? That is what we call racial pot. This is a racial pot. All the ethnicities, they are living together in Sri Lanka. For a long period of time, we were living together. And now what happened? Now it boils over. Because of this communal clash, we are having so many problems with our ethnicities, right? That is what the writer has highlighted. So when we refer to the first stanza, when we refer to the first four lines of the first stanza, what we can realize, my dear students, how the poetess has highlighted the behavior of media, how the poetess has highlighted the reaction of tourists. These two things are actually highlighted when it comes to the first stanza, right? When we read the first part of the poem, we can realize how the poetess has highlighted, or else the poetess has criticized the behavior of media, and how these innocent tourists actually cancel their options because they were helpless. They never wanted to live in a country where they have a communal clash. Right, let's go to the explanation. Let's write down the difficult words. The poetess discusses how the situation is described in printed media with eye-catching headlines. Glimpsing. Glimpsing means catch sight of. Scuttle. What do you mean by scuttle? Run hurriedly or furtively with short, quick steps. So tourists are actually searching for some kind of survival, right? That is what we can realize here. The reaction of the tourist who came to Sri Lanka to enjoy the natural beauty of the country now try to run hurriedly due to the sudden communal clash. They have cancelled their tickets, options, and rooms. They don't want to live in this country. Now, what is the reason? The reason is the communal clash. Hurry up and write down. Please pass me a message. Right. Okay. Now we have actually move on to the next part. A metaphor can be taken as a direct comparison where if you say, my father is a tiger, that is a direct comparison, a metaphor. Personification means you are actually personifying something which you can find from the environment. Now, Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson can be taken as a personification. That is simple explanation, simple literature. I hope that you did the first poem, right? So, personification means you are giving personal attributes to animals, right? Eagle can be taken as an example. Right, we are moving to the next part. Views of the temple and the holy mountain. Now, these two things you have to remember. He is referred to as the temple of tooth and the Adam's peak. I told you, right? In the second line, he highlights about the temple of tooth, where most of the tourists they like to visit this place, right? So the writer has actually highlighted two important places, two tourist attractions. But now what has actually happened? They are actually canceling all their options. They don't want to go these places, right? They are popular tourist destinations in Sri Lanka. Tourists have identified the seriousness of the racial conflict and now they have cancelled their bookings to visit these places. They don't want to go to Adams Peak. They don't like to visit Temple of Tooth. They are cancelling all their options. This is what we can realize. Hurry up and write down. Please pass me a message. Right. Now we will move on to the next part. I hope you guys have completed. Flashpoint in paradise, racial pot boils over. Now, what do you mean by that? Above are the news headlines used by print media to attract the audience. I told you how they used their headlines, right? Glimpsing headlines. These are the headlines that they used in the newspapers in order to get the attraction of the readers. Then they can sell a lot of newspapers, right? Flashpoint in paradise, racial pot boils over. Above are the news headlines used by print media to attract the audience. Sri Lanka is compared to a racial pot. A racial pot is a sociological term which is used to show the unity of the different races living together, but it has boiled over now, right? What happens when it is boiling over? All the valuable condiments will go away, right? So, because of this communal clash, now what has happened? Long ago, almost all the Sri Lankan communities lived together, but because of this communal clash, now it has become a chaos, right? That is what we can realize. So, hurry up and write down. Yeah, you can take it as a metaphor. When we discuss about poetic techniques, we will go to that. Right now, we will move on to the next part. Right, so let's move on to the next part and let's read that part. And even the gone away boy who had hoped to find lost roots, lost lovers, lost talent, even out among the palms, makes timely return, giving thanks that Toronto is quite romantic enough for his purposes. Now, in this stanza, from line number 5 to 9, what kind of idea is actually highlighted here? This is what we have to pay our attention again. And even the gone away boy who had hoped to find lost roots, lost lovers, lost talent. Now, here the gone away boy means the tourist, right? Again, the poetess is highlighting to the tourist who actually came to this country in order to find our ancient heritage, ancient history, lost roots, right? Lost lovers, lost talent. All these three words clearly show us these tourists actually came to our motherland in order to find the ancient history, ancient heritage, ancient culture, ancient civilization, right? These are the things actually these tourists actually enjoy when they come to our land, right? That is why this gone away boy or else these tourists come to see our motherland in order to witness, in order to explore, in order to discover the beauty, the heritage, the mystery of this island, the technology that our ancestors had long time ago, right? So that is why these people come to our land every single year, every single day, right? But now what has happened? Now what has happened? Now this gone away boy or else these tourists, now they are thinking that Toronto in Canada, Toronto is another very beautiful, attractive tourist destination. So these tourists were under the impression that it is better to go to Toronto rather than waiting here because for our purposes, in order to find lost roots, lost lovers, lost talent, in order to find these things, more than Sri Lanka, Toronto is better. Now, here again, you can understand how these tourists are actually changing their destinations due to the communal clash. So, the writer or else the poetess highlights us how these tourists actually showed their interest towards other countries like Toronto. Toronto is a very popular place in Canada, right? So, they believe that we thought that Sri Lanka is a better place, but now we believe that now we are under the impression that okay, Toronto is much more better place than this, and it is very much romantic, and it will definitely serve for our purposes. So from this quotation, also the writer wants to highlight the fact that how these tourists actually gave up this beautiful land. We all have to understand as students, right? Uh, the industry of tourism actually brings a lot of foreign income to our motherland, right? A lot of foreign income will be brought to our motherland through tourism, right? We have to agree that. So here, what happened, my dear students, due to communal clash, most of the tourists they cancel their trips. They don't like to come to Sri Lanka. They actually wanted to escape. That is what we can understand. So we will move on to the explanation. Lost roots, lost lovers, lost talent, even out among the palms, lost civilization, abilities, and technology of our ancestors. Romance remained in history, right? So you can see these pictures. This is why these tourists actually came to Sri Lanka in order to witness the beauty, right? In order to witness the beauty of the country, in order to witness the civilization, in order to witness the heritage. From these pictures, you can understand why they came to Sri Lanka. They came to see the beautiful Yala sanctuary. They came to see the beautiful Singaraj, Vilpattu. They want to engage and enjoy the serenity of our land. But because of this communal clash, everything changed. Now they don't want to come to our country, right? Now they don't like that. Now they have changed their mindset. Hurry up and write down. A boy who came to Sri Lanka in search of ancient civilization, cultural roots, and legacy of our motherland had made a timely decision to return. He thinks Toronto city in Canada is more ideal and romantic for his purposes than visiting Sri Lanka. He thinks like this due to communal clash. There was no security for tourists. This again suggests to us the view of the tourist and the dilapidation of the tourist industry due to the communal clash which occurred in the country. Dilapidation means the destruction, right? The first 9 lines of the poem suggest to us how this incident created a black mark in our country, especially among the tourists. The irresponsible behavior of the media is also ratified here, where they tried to gain more profits by sensationalizing the news rather than providing solace to people. Rather than providing a solution to people, media sensationalize the news using bold headlines glimpsing on their newspapers because they always anticipated to sell more and more newspapers, then they can earn a lot of money from them. That is what they always expected, right? So hurry up and write down. Please pass me a message. Okay, my dear students, now this is a very difficult poem. So make sure to follow the poem very carefully, otherwise you will never understand this. So we have finished actually the first stanza. In the first stanza itself, we can understand how the poetess has highlighted about the media, how the poetess has highlighted about the tourists and what kind of impact is created in their minds because of this communal clash, and how these tourists actually wanted to escape from this particular place, right? Okay, so we will move on to the next part. Now we are in the next part. Now let's discuss about this particular stanza and let's pay our attention what kind of idea is mentioned here. Now the tourism, media, those parts now over. Now here we have a new perspective. I told you basically we have 7 stanzas. Those 7 stanzas actually highlight 7 different situations, right? Try to highlight them. Powerless this time to shelter or to share, we strive to be objective, try to trace the match that lit this sacrificial fire, the steps by which we reach this ravaged place, right? So here, powerless this time to shelter or to share. Now, who is powerless here, my dear students? People are powerless, right? Innocent people are powerless. All the politicians are very much powerful, right? So here, almost all the people, they are the ones who are actually powerless, according to the poetess. Powerless this time to shelter or to share. We strive to be objective, try to trace. Right now, we are trying to be objective. We are trying to be logical. We are trying to find out the match that lit this sacrificial fire. So can you remember when I explained you the poem, I told you about the title? When we use the word big match, I told you basically we have several interpretations, the ambiguity, right? I highlighted you about the ambiguity. I told you that there are several aspects, the several interpretations can be taken. Now here, the poet actually gives one interpretation, the match that lit this sacrificial fire. So here, now people are actually logical and they are trying to find who actually started this destruction. They are very much vigilant to find out who actually started this particular destruction. That is what they wanted to find out. The match that lit this sacrificial fire, they wanted to figure out who actually started this sacrificial fire. The steps by which we reach this ravaged place. So they are searching how did they come to this particular destruction. Now in the second stanza, the poet is actually self-questioning herself to find out how people became this much inhuman, how people became this much brutal. This is what she has been actually asking, right? She is asking the question from the entire society. She wanted to figure out now people have become powerless. They don't have any shelter to go. Now they are thinking back. Now almost all the majority of Sinhalese, they have done the mistake. They are the ones who started this communal clash. Now they are thinking back. They are having a flashback and they are thinking, how did we start this? And why did we start this? Under whose influence? Who actually started this communal clash? Sacrificial fire. So here sacrificial fire means the communal clash, right? So here the word match refers to the wax match, right? The wax match that we use to actually ignite fire. So in this particular stanza, we can understand the people are actually having a flashback and they were thinking what to do in this particular situation and how they came to this particular place. So let's write down the difficult word, strive. Strive means they make great effort to find out why did this particular problem actually occur. Objective means they are very much uh, logical and they are very much influenced by personal feelings, and considering their ideas and representing facts, they are searching how people became this much brutal. Ravage means severely damaged or devastated. So in the second stanza, people are asking themselves who actually created this problem. That is what we can realize. Hurry up and write down. Right? We will move on to the next part. The poetess deals with the eternal truth that people in this country have faced for generations. People are powerless. Soon after they elected these politicians with their sovereignty through an election, none of these politicians are neither reliable nor responsible for the public. People were influenced by opportunistic politicians towards the racial violence. I told you, majority of Sinhalese became very much emotional, right? They became very much emotional and they actually wanted to fight, right, against these Tamils because they were under the influence that almost all the Tamils are terrorists, right? That is why they wanted to fight. Innocent people were used as a weapon during this incident. Most of the Sinhalese were controlled by their emotions, not rational thoughts. So most of the Sinhalese thought that, okay, these innocent soldiers were killed by Tamils, not by LTTE. They were under the impression that almost all the Tamils are terrorists, right? That is what they thought. The poetess says that they try hard, strive to make great efforts to find out the real reason behind this violence. Now only they try to find hard what is the real reason for this particular violence. Who made them people to be like this? Whose intention is this? Do they really want to have a battle with Tamil citizens? Now they are asking the question. But now it is too late. They have already killed a lot of people and they have already done so many things. Now it is too late. But now they are asking the question whether it is true, right? What is the reason behind this? Now they are actually asking questions from themselves, and they are trying to find out who is responsible for this, right? That is what we can realize. Hurry up and write down. Right. We will wind up the session from there. So we will discuss the rest of the parts next week. If you have finished, you can leave the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.